This board is in a pickle, the CBS board. If they get this wrong, they're in big trouble. But it's also a divided board. It's a board totally at war with itself, as has been quite clearly demonstrated in the last few months. There is this litigation going on between the controlling shareholder and the 5 independent board members. So it's perhaps not.
How much of the board is still controlled by Les?
Well, the vote the last time was 11-3. So 11 on Les's side for the previous issue, which was about the control of National Amusements.
How much does the previous issue inform their decision now about what they do about his situation at the moment? I mean, how much do they feel they need him there in order to compete on that other battle for control of the company?
Well, so there are 2 questions in there. How much does the previous issue? The first words out of CBS's mouth about this on Friday was this insinuation that the timing of this Ronan Farrow story is awfully strange, which was essentially an implication that this is all about the fight for control, which is kind of amazing that they said that.
Which Ronan Farrow, though, repeatedly said, and said both publicly and in the article, was not the case.
Right. He said, Ileana Douglas called me the day after the Weinstein story, and this is an organic thing. But the bigger question is how much of the CBS story is the Les Moonves story? I mean, entirely, as far as investors are concerned. Les Moonves is CBS. Well,
let me ask you, though, and this to me is the ultimate commercial question if you're a board member. And I know that morals are supposed to also enter into the equation, but just play it out commercially. Do we believe that advertisers on CBS or actors, directors, what have you, has anyone publicly or privately, I haven't seen it publicly, so it must be privately, if it were to happen at all, say, you know what, actually, we don't want to do business with this company because of this situation? Because that's when it gets complicated in a very different way.
Yep. So we haven't seen that yet. We saw some senior CBS female executives come out in the last few days supporting.
Very supportive of Les Moonves.
Yeah, right. There has been also a loud outcry against him, but it's mostly been from the outside, from women's groups or candidates or things like that. Or, I mean, if you read my Twitter feed, there's a mob out there to get him. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of sentiment, but we haven't seen the advertisers yet.
But Andrew does raise the risk. This is very common now, right? Virtue signaling. Oh, yeah. Something bad happens, and so everybody must get on board to virtue signal that they do not agree with whether they believe it or agree with it or not, right? I mean, it is a risk that people will feel compelled to do exactly what Andrew suggests might happen.
Completely. And if more women come forward, I mean, we've all seen this movie before, like that often happens in these situations, especially if the board does nothing, that sort of almost dares more people to come forward.
Walk us through just the timeline of, get a calendar out, tell us what we're going to be hearing over the next several weeks, and obviously we have the court date coming up as well.
Right. So the next thing we'll hear is the law firm being selected. So they said we're going to pick a law firm, then they will pick a law firm. I'm expecting that to happen this week.
Okay.
So then there'll be this investigation.
And would the goal be to slow walk this as humanly possible to get to this date in October? And we should just tell the audience this date in October is?
Right. Oh, well, it's the first week of October.
First week of October.
Is when the trial is for the big showdown.
Showdown as to who really controls CBS.
Right. And they just blew the calendar up yesterday, saying that August 10th, which was going to be the shareholder meeting, they've indefinitely postponed that.
And what
because of the lawsuit?
Well, because of the whole situation. That's when they're going to be choosing their board members, and Les Moonves is the chairman of the board.
Is the assumption that if Les Moonves were not involved, right, if he were either suspended or removed, that it would be almost a done deal, that the rest of the board would say, fine, we're going to have to essentially recombine with Viacom at this point?
Well, that's a big leap. I mean, the independent directors are on the record saying we don't think it's a combination is the best thing. So the general feeling is short term, no, it's going to be tough to do the merger. But long term, ever since Friday, it looks more inevitable.